Oh, hey, what's going on there, everybody?
What's up, guys? Kevin Calhoun here, Calhoun Show. And we have a bunch of stuff to do today. First off, the NFL this past weekend, a little crazy. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of different storylines here that are really, really interesting. We start, obviously, with your and my New York Football Giants. Playing enough defense to to knock off the Dallas Cowboys for the second time this year. I have a lot of thoughts about that game, a lot of thoughts about the Cowboys moving forward, and a lot of thoughts about those Giants as well. Ravens-Patriots didn't look close early, but the Patriots turn around and get the job done in the second half, as they are known to do, especially at home. Le'Veon Bell, crazy, just off the charts good again. Lots of stuff going on around multiple sports. Russell Westbrook didn't get a triple-double the other night. Sidney Crosby is scoring at a ridiculous pace. If you're not watching hockey and if you're not keeping up with what McDavid and Crosby are doing right now, do yourself a favor and look it up. Crosby missed the first 6 games of the season with a concussion. And if he had played all 82 with the pace that he's been working at since he returned, he'd have 75 goals and 114 points, which would, I believe, be the most in the last 10 years, maybe last 8 years. So keep an eye on that. But there's so many things to get to here. We're all of a sudden looking at a Lions team that is going to win the North, maybe, but Stafford's finger, and the Packers have all of a sudden, flipped that switch. They turn that gear on, and the Packers are absolutely on fire. They're coming for everybody. So we have a lot of stuff to do. We have a lot of stuff to get to. Let's not waste any time. Let's go. It's the Calhoun Show. All right. As always, you can follow the show on Twitter at Calhoun Show and email the show, calhounshow@gmail.com. You can like the show on Facebook and subscribe to it on YouTube. You can listen to us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and obviously iTunes. When you're on iTunes, or if you're even not on iTunes, if you could do us the solid favor of going and leaving a rate and review. If you like the show, go comment and leave 5 stars for us. We'd greatly appreciate it. And the voicemail line, 860-740-2119. The contest continues this week. The best social media interaction we get. We got a few good ones over this past week. But I can tell you guys right now that the number one seed, at least as of recording time today, is our buddy Kyle G, who has sent in a dissertation, and a really good one, about the Hall of Fame in baseball that I'm going to get to later. Finally, he's been waiting for 2 weeks, and I'm finally getting it tonight. So we'll get there. But for now, and the voicemail line, sorry, 860-740-2119. I don't know if I said that or not. Anyway, so the NFL was fun, for sure, but there was a lot of problems. There was a lot of problems on Sunday. Teams still don't know how to kick. Teams, bad penalties, bad coaching, bad timeouts, bad mistakes, poor clock management. But the number one thing that I'm seeing, which is just unbelievably, I don't know if it's rare or if it's just magnified this year, offenses suck overwhelmingly in the NFL. Now, I understand that over the course of history, we have always seen teams fluctuate, and I understand that in that same history, we're seeing more offense now than we ever saw then, for the most part. Obviously, you have your outliers here and there, but there's more offense in the game now. I think it's more to do with the rules than it is to do with the abilities. And you look around the league, you start with my team, with the New York Giants. Offensively, they're a mess. They have Eric Flowers at left tackle, who I don't know if he could block half the people in this listening audience. He's off their false start, hold, miss block, miss assignment, every other play. Eli Manning, I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's terrified that he's got no time to work, so the offensive line's in his head. Or I don't know if Eli Manning's in his mid-30s and is starting to show it. And you can look around the league and you can see a lot of those same problems. Phillip Rivers in San Diego, same draft class as Eli. That offense has sputtered. Blake Bortles was second in the league in touchdowns last year. Now, I understand that a lot of that has to do with garbage time ability, but man, I'll tell you, he just looks terrible. Looks terrible this year. Buffalo's offense got outgained by Le'Veon Bell the other day. The Jets' offense, terrible. Cleveland. Look at the AFC South. Indianapolis is schizophrenic. They don't know who they are. Houston has a $70 million sandbag taking the ball away from the center every play. And the aforementioned Jaguars. I mentioned San Diego already. And then you go to the NFC, and some of the same problems are still there. You have a little life out of Chicago, but the receivers can't catch the ball. Carolina has no idea what they're doing. San Francisco has no idea. The Rams, we'll get to the Rams. Offenses are bad. And maybe it's that the top end is so much better. You know, we see what Dallas has done with the exception of this past 2 weeks. They struggled against Minnesota, and they obviously struggled with the Giants. I think they had 2 out of 25 third downs in the last 2 weeks. But with the exception of those 2 weeks, you look at what Dallas has done. You look at what New England does. You look at what Pittsburgh did on Sunday. Atlanta's done it a few times. Kansas City's even had a couple games. Oakland obviously is part of that mix. There's a lot of great offenses that have the ability to rear their fangs and go after you. But it just, to me, it seems like the median of offense in the NFL is just lower. It's just lower. Now, the game is slow. The kicking has completely turned the league on its head this year. Coaches are afraid to kick the extra point. Coaches are afraid to kick a long field goal. There's no trust for the kickers. But there's silly mistakes being made everywhere. Monday Night Football comes to mind with the Ravens. They score. They get it to a one-possession game, and they have the timeouts. They have the 2-minute warning. The Patriots are playing for the onside kick. They have no one deep with 2 minutes and 4 seconds or whatever it was left. And you have 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. And Justin Tucker, who's going to kick it through the back of the end zone if he feels like it, right? The Ravens attempt a terrible onside kick and inevitably never get the ball back. Now, maybe they give up the same first down 40 yards further back on the field as they did, but the field possession, and John Harbaugh's a smart coach, and singling him out isn't necessarily fair, but it's an example that comes to mind. And the coaching level in this league is just questionable to me right now. The whole league just looks bogged down. I don't know what I can't place exactly what it is. I care less about watching games that the Giants aren't involved in than I have in 5 years. I really do. I watched the first half on Monday night. Me and my brother. My brother's a big Ravens fan. So he and I met up and went over to my dad's house, and we watched the first half over at my dad's. And obviously the Patriots dominated the first half. I came back here, and Danny was keeping me updated on what was going on with the game. I didn't turn it back on until midway through the fourth quarter. Just didn't care. The games aren't that great. There's too many penalties. There's too many. I don't know. It's just, some of it's ugly football, and some of it'll go away, and it'll be interesting to see because the cream's going to rise to the top. So you look at teams like the Giants, who seem to have a Super Bowl caliber defense now, but I don't think they're a real contender until they can have a quarterback that can throw for more than 200 yards, which he hasn't done in almost a month, which seems impossible. In 2016, in the NFL, and Odell Beckham's standing on the same field as you, wearing the same color shirt you are, you should get 200 yards passing every week. Eli hasn't done that. Until I can see the Giants have an ability to move the football, and not necessarily the run game. I don't think the run game's coming back this year. I think you're going to see the Giants draft a running back for that exact reason, and I think they're going to try to improve the offensive line too. The defense seems to be where they need it to be. But until the Giants can show some ability to use the passing game as a short running game, and having Shane Vereen back will help. Obviously, you lost him for a lot of the season, and then he had the concussion last week against Dallas, so you should have him back potentially if he gets through the protocol. If they can get some kind of short passing attack, I'll believe in the Giants. If I can see the Detroit Lions go out and beat a team they should beat early in a game, I'll start believing. Right now, I'm not there. Right now, their coach is still Jim Caldwell. Now their quarterback, who's playing it at MVP level, has no middle finger on his throwing hand. I don't know what the Lions are, but I do know that they're playing close games against bad teams. And they've trailed in, I think, every game this year in the fourth quarter. That's not a team I trust. I want to see what you've done for me lately. I look at the Packers, that's a team I can get behind as far as who I trust. That's a 6 seed waiting to happen running to the Super Bowl. It really is. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not predicting it, but they're hot. And the quarterback's hot, and he's feeling every throw. The NFC is it's so interesting to see what's going to happen this weekend. Because the number one game, obviously, you get Dallas hosting Tampa. And that game has implications all over the place. It has wildcard implications, and it also affects the East and the South and the bye weeks. And then on the other side of things, you get the same scenario where you have the Giants and the Lions playing. So if the Cowboys drop another one to Tampa, which is possible, they're playing well, I think it's a terrible matchup for the Bucs, and I would pick the Cowboys to win. The Cowboy running game is too good, and Tampa struggles with that. So there is a fighting chance, though, that Tampa Bay could continue to be hot, and they believe in Jameis Winston, and he's going to lead them in there. Maybe they come out with a win. If that happens Sunday night and the Giants handle Stafford, which the Giants' defense looks really good, and I think it's going to win them probably 2 out of their last 3. They have Philadelphia and Washington coming up after this game here with Detroit. I think the Giants will win 2 out of those 3. And Washington's the game that scares me because I think their offense is good enough to outscore the Giants' bad offense, even with the way the Giants' defense has been playing. I look at Detroit and I see Stafford, and if it's windy or rainy or cold, and these are all possibilities, the early forecast doesn't look like the temperature is going to have a big factor, but there could be some wind and some elements happening in the Meadowlands, which there usually are. A quarterback with no strength in the middle finger on his throwing hand, that would scare me as a Lions fan. So I think the Giants should handle that. And if they do, and if Tampa Bay wins on Sunday night, all of a sudden, Dallas is holding on to a very slim 1-game lead for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Because you got to remember, if the Giants win out, they go 12-4. If the Cowboys win out, they go 14-2. So if the Cowboys keep winning, they're going to be fine. But if the Cowboys end up 12-4, the Giants better have lost one, or the Cowboys ain't the number 1 seed because the Giants swept them. I heard a caller. I was walking through one of the offices at work, and he had WFAN on, and it was a caller. And actually, you know what? Yesterday morning, because it was Chris Christie was sitting in for Boomer Esiason, and Governor Christie is a big Dallas Cowboy fan, and he was sitting in with Craig Carton in the morning show there. And caller calls in, and you could tell New York accent and everything. And he just calls and he goes, "Yeah, I got a question for the governor. How do you spell Dallas, Governor? With 2 L's." Click. It's cracked me up. Love New York people. So I don't know. The NFC's interesting. Adrian Peterson might be coming back now. It's a mess. I mean, Green Bay 7-6. They're 3rd place in their own division, but they're the hottest team in football. We got to find a way to get Green Bay in the playoffs, guys. I mean, that's important. It's really important because you look at the way things are set up now. The Giants have a pretty good stranglehold. They got a 2-game lead with 3 to play on the wild card, so they should be fine. But I want to see Dallas in because there's teams that we want to see, right? There's teams that you don't want to see. I don't want to see Denver. The defense is fine. Denver is basically Giants West right now. No offense and a good defense. And I know Denver's accomplished a lot more in the last 5 years, so I'm not trying to draw that comparison. But just at face value and at surface level, what those two teams are, they're very similar right now. So, I want to see the Giants in the playoffs. I don't want to see Denver. And if I'm not a Giants fan, I wouldn't want to see the Giants either. They're kind of boring. Beckham's fun when he can get the ball in his hands, if he doesn't drop it, or if Eli doesn't miss him, or if Eli has any time to even look for him. So there's teams we want. I'm excited for Oakland in the playoffs. I'm excited for Kansas City because I had them there and I have them in the Super Bowl. I don't know. It's a weird time. It's a bummer. The injuries are a bummer. Earl Thomas, Rob Gronkowski, Ryan Tannehill now looks like he's going to be out for at least a few weeks. Melvin Gordon looks like he's going to be out for at least a week or 2. It's It's a messy league, but there's so many different scenarios. Everything is so close. I mean, you look at the wild card race on either side. Oakland is going to get the wild card if they don't win the division, and if they don't get the wild card, Kansas City will for the number one. But then on the second wild card in the AFC, Denver's 8-5, Miami's 8-5, Baltimore 7-6, Tennessee 7-6, Indy 6-7, Buffalo 6-7. It's like 6 teams within 2 games of each other with 3 to play, and the NFC side's no different. Washington's 8-5. Washington's 7-5-1. They're the first team out. Tampa's the last team in with the 8-5 record, and then you still have Minnesota and Green Bay at 7-6 right behind them. So there's a lot that we have to figure out. It would certainly appear that some of these teams, if you're Minnesota, Detroit, and Green Bay, it's all about winning the North. Because it sure looks like the NFC East is going to have a wild card, more than likely the Giants, and it sure looks like the South is going to get the other one with either the Falcons or the Bucs. So I don't know. It's been 1 week. No, it's been an interesting few weeks, and let's hop off football for a second here. I have officially resided to the fact that there's no way I'm ever going to get any better at planning for Christmas. It's just not going to happen because I keep trying every year after December 25th. It's always, and it happens 3 times a year, right? So we'll say December 26th will be the first time I have this thought. And then I'll have it again in like April. And then one last time in like September. So here's the thought. And everyone has the same one. All right. X amount of time till Christmas. 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is. That gives me that amount of time to get all the shopping I need done. You know, who cares? It's the middle of June. You're in a store. Look at that. My mom would like that. Bang. Got it. Done. You're done in June. Look at this. Oh, my sister would really enjoy that. Grab it. Done. See you later. I have that thought all the time. Happens in September and October. All right, you got 3 months. Time to start looking around, grab some things. Last thing you want to do is, be sitting in your office 11 days from Christmas at 4 o'clock in the afternoon recording your podcast, and in the back of your head be thinking, I guess I have to do Amazon Prime stuff tonight? I don't really know what I'm doing. I've bought 2 things for Christmas. 2! And they're for one person. Oh, the worst. The worst. Our Christmas tree looks nice, though. That's the nice part about having a roommate that would do that, because I don't think I'm adult enough to remember to do things like get a Christmas tree. Like one day I just walked in and she had it up, and she was and I have 2 roommates and they're engaged to each other. They're actually getting married here in a couple weeks. So Paige was putting the decorations on it, and I walked in and I was just like, oh, Christmas tree. Good call. Good call. Good looking out, guys, because I got nothing for it. Yeah, I just got nothing. I can never remember that stuff. I'm terrible at shopping for people. Terrible at gifts. I'm good at wrapping the stuff once I have it, but I think that's because I've never wrapped anything with any sense of comfortability with the time I have to accomplish the wrapping process. It's always a panic. It's always like I would bet that before I drive to my mom's house where we do Christmas morning, I would bet that I wrap something. I'm just a prediction. That morning, I bet you I wrap something that day. Feel confident with that. So, all right, we got a lot of stuff to do. We got a lot of more things to get to here on the podcast. So, I'm going to take 2, and we'll keep going. It's Calhoun Show.
The Calhoun Show.
All right, so we have to talk, guys, for a minute. You've been listening to the show. You know what I do. You know the deal. You know the things I like and the things I don't like, and you know where this conversation's headed. So let's just head down the path. I have a hole in my life now. At least you would think I do. Well, there's many. Trust me. So Jeff Fisher got fired from the LA Rams, and it's been the longest running theme on the show, the distaste I have for Jeff Fisher. So I needed to come up with a new mortal enemy in the NFL because I don't have one right now. So I thought about moving around the positions of teams and looking around just to see who don't I like, because there's people I don't like, and they replaced him with Jim Fossil's son John, so I know how I felt about Jim Fossil. So I thought maybe I'd just stick with the Rams head coach. Maybe I'll just always hate them, but that's not fair. So I thought about looking around, and this was within the first 2 minutes of Jeff Fisher getting fired. So I didn't celebrate, by the way. I wasn't happy. I mean, it was just kind of a, So then it hit me. Within a minute or two of the news coming out, getting the alert on my phone, Jeff Fisher tied the all-time loss record for a head coach. Tied Dan Reeves. They both have 165 losses in the NFL. Those are the most ever. The Rams are playing Seattle on a short week this week. They're going to lose that game. They were going to lose that game anyway. I am very, very not happy that Jeff Fisher got fired before he has that record. I know he's tied, but I'm on Pro Football Reference right now, and Dan Reeves' name is at the top of the list, and by any measure of, if there's any, all right, hold on. Let me take the headphones off for a second, because this we need to talk about for a second. There's no NFL executives listening to this podcast right now. At least I imagine there's not. If there is, hey, what's going on? We all need to talk for 1 second. Jeff Fisher is not a head coach candidate ever again. We can't do this anymore. It can't happen anymore. We saw 5.5, 6, whatever goddamn years of it in LA or St. Louis. Can't do it anymore. Jeff Fisher's last winning season was 2008. 2008. The last time he didn't have a losing record was 2009. 2010 Titans 6-10, fired. 2012 Rams 7-8-1, 7-9, 6-10, 7-9, 4-9, finally gone. I did want to give credit, by the way. Let me put these headphones back on. I did want to give credit to one coach, though. So I've got this Pro Football Reference list up in front of me here, like I mentioned. Jeff Fisher tied for first in losses by a head coach. Now, credit to Jeff Fisher, all-time win percentage, 512, 173 and 165. If we had given him another year, he definitely would have been below. However, there is one coach who was mediocre enough to stay employed. In the top 20 list of coaches with the most losses, only Norv Turner has a losing record. Good for him. By the way, the most wins over losses, Don Shula has 172 more wins than losses. And if you're wondering who else is there, George Halas is there, and then I think third on the list is Belichick. Yep. Third on the list is Belichick. By the way, the most games under 500 for a head coach. Let's see. Marion Campbell, 1974 to 1989. He is 46 games under 500. John Mackey, 44. Burt Bell, 36. Oh, look at this. Sixth place overall, Gus Bradley, 33 games under 500. Gus Bradley's 14 and 47. Unbelievable. By the way, my man Steve Spagnuolo, 28 under 500. He only coached 48 games. Whoops. So, all right, I've got this email from our buddy KG that I want to get to. So he emailed and left a voicemail, but he asked me to just read the email here instead today. Concerning the Baseball Hall of Fame now, for me, not something I pay attention to too often, and it's not because I don't care. It's more because I think it's kind of, especially with baseball, the Hall of Fame is really, really just messed up. And Kyle touched on a bunch of it. Now, in fairness to Kyle, he wrote a lot of stuff here. I can't read all of it. because it would take forever. I read through all of it, but I'm not going to read all of it to you guys because that would take a really long time. So, Kyle actually, he did a really great job. He gave me a lot of information here. Like I was going to research all of this based on what he sent me. He's got baseball reference links in here. He's got ESPN article links in here. He's the best. This, by the way, is the leader in the clubhouse of the Calhoun cold dump, whatever we're calling it. Send in something social media wise. The best thing we get between now and Christmas is the winner. And I can tell you first off that the prize involves you leaving your house. How's that? The prize involves you leaving your house. That's all I'm giving you this week, though. So, as far as the Baseball Hall of Fame goes, so he was talking about, let's do the first part here. While 2016's induction class only had 2 players, Piazza and Griffey, in most years that number fluctuates. For example, the last 10 years going back, class sizes are as follows, and it's basically 2, 4, 6, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 6, 2. So it kind of moves up and down. So he's talking to me about players that might get in and players that might not get in, and there's some cases for all of them. The one that stood out to me, he mentioned Vlad Guerrero. He mentioned Manny Ramirez. He's obviously not getting in, and then the other guys that have been nominated before, being Bagwell, Raines, Hoffman, Schilling, Messina, and Edgar Martinez. Now, Edgar Martinez is an interesting one because it's the designated hitter argument. And I'm with Kyle completely because Kyle wrote to me about Martinez. He says, Martinez is a curious case. In one respect, yes, he should be able to get in. I mean, there is a Major League Baseball award named after the guy at the DH position. And while others seem to give pause to giving a dedicated DH a pass into the Hall without him first playing a bunch of years in the field, I don't think he should be punished for playing that position. Not really his fault. A condition of who else was on his team and how management was placing him in a position to succeed. I agree completely. If you're a baseball player and you contribute to your baseball team and you're a reason that they're winning games, it doesn't matter what position you're playing. I don't care. There's a reason that a starting pitcher can be the MVP of a team. It's a rare case, but it can happen. Just like it should be a rare case that a designated hitter gets into the Hall of Fame. Guess what? Edgar Martinez, David Ortiz, steroid things aside, should be in. It just should happen. He did the job that was asked of him. It's I think we have one punter in the Hall of Fame. Is Ray Guy in the Hall of Fame? I think he is. Is he a punter? Does that sound right? That seemed really, really correct when I said it, and I lost all confidence in it about 1 second after that. These things are rare cases, but they should be. But rare doesn't mean never. So yeah, I'm completely with Kyle, but he put a couple questions in here as well. So, has it been getting harder to get into the Hall of Fame? And he posed a couple answers to these as well. He would say yes, and this is what he wrote. Not drastically, but the nostalgic glory days are over, and the aura around certain players or generations of play have shifted, and players from the 90s onward, I think, have had to face higher hurdles in either media scrutiny or new thresholds or standards of performance, which leads me to the next question. So we'll stop there. Has it been getting harder to get into the Hall of Fame? Yes, and Kyle hit on one of the points, and there's a bunch. Steroids, everyone's questioned. That's number one. There's a doubt about everyone now. Whenever a name comes across, hey, this guy's eligible for the Hall of Fame, the first thought is going to be, well, are steroids involved with this guy? Even if there was never a question during his playing career, that's going to be the first question, and it makes sense why it is. Now, to me, and Kyle's second question kind of sets this up a little more. So, I'll read that second question, and then I'll get to where I want to go with this. Has the steroid era impacted the Hall of Fame voting process? And Kyle wrote, definitely, in terms of not just making players ineligible, officially or unofficially, due to steroid allegations, but also impacting statistic thresholds for what players might be compared to against historically, as well as versus the era in which they played. So I guess a more fair question would be, how has the steroid era impacted the Hall? Also, how has the steroid era impacted the Hall, especially given team management as well as league management either turned a blind eye to steroid use or did not go far enough to erase the incentive of taking PEDs? Now, I've heard this argument made before that anyone that never tested positive for steroids should be allowed in. And that's what I feel like. That's what I feel as well. And I'm not the first one to come up with this. And you hear it described as this a lot. The Baseball Hall of Fame is a museum. and it should be treated as such. The history of baseball should be represented in the Hall of Fame. You can't have a Hall of Infamy, but Barry Bonds belongs wherever the records are. Pete Rose belongs wherever the records are. Not to say that those two cases are the same, but that's how I feel. Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. He was a great player that accomplished great things. He cheated. Put an asterisk next to his, I was going to say headstone. That's really goddamn morbid. No, the statue, the face thing, whatever it is. Put an asterisk on that. But he's got to be there. And Kyle, by the way, nailed the statistical side of this. Stats are very weird. I heard someone argue last week that Frank Gore's not a Hall of Famer in the NFL. Now, if you just heard that, you would probably, and I felt the same way, be inclined to say, yeah, probably not. Frank Gore's a top 10 running back all time in yards. I lost all confidence in that too, but I'm pretty sure that one's right. I think the Ray Guy thing was right too. So, what do the numbers mean? And we've always had, and see, that's the hard part, and this is what Kyle's getting at. In every sport, there's always been a certain level you have to reach, right? 500 home runs, you're a Hall of Famer. 3,000 hits, we're getting close, right? Now we're in the borderline. 10,000 rushing yards, you're in. Whatever the passing yard equivalent would be or number of touchdowns would be. It doesn't matter. You understand the point. So the question then becomes, whatever steroids did to baseball, at what point have we bounced back and we can now look at numbers safely again? You know what I mean? So if 55 home runs or 73 home runs in 2002 was, the best in the league and off the charts and crazy good, okay. But we need to have the ability now in 2016 to say, wow, Bryce Harper hit, make up a number, whoever leads the league in home runs, doesn't matter. Next year, Bryce Harper hits 43 home runs, and he leads the league, if that's what happens. Should we be comparing that to 60 or 70 that McGuire, Sosa, and Bonds were hitting? Of course we shouldn't, because the assumption is that Bryce Harper's not doing the same things that those guys were doing. But we don't take that into consideration all the time, because stats got inflated during the steroid era, and guys got in the Hall of Fame. So you're going to start comparing those numbers, and if we're going to be looking for 45 home runs out of a designated hitter every year to make the Hall of Fame, and that's an arbitrary number, it's probably too high. But if you just take it at face value for the number itself, you times whatever that number's supposed to be by 15 years, that's the career. If you don't hit the number that they calculate, you're not getting in. But times are different. That number's too high. We're setting the bar too high. Pitching is getting better. Pitching is coming back. I mean, you look at batting average over the last 5-10 years, I'm sure it's declined year to year. Maybe not consistently, but as the steroids have been going away, and they have been going away, and I'm sure they're not gone yet, but there's way less of them now than there were 10 years ago, and there were way less of them 5 years ago than there were 10 years ago. We're going downhill with it, and that's a good thing, but pitching's coming back. To me, the interesting part about the Hall of Fame moving forward, not only with these steroid guys, and I'd let them all in. I really would. I don't know if there's a way to make it known why they're there, because 100 years from now, I don't know what people are going to know about Barry Bonds, but they're going to know he hit 73 home runs in a season. And 100 years from now, when everyone's on steroids, because everyone will be healthy, I'm not talking anabolic 1998 steroids. I'm talking HGH. It's coming. It's going to help everyone. It's just going to happen. Eventually, these stats are going to be meaningless anyway. Let him in. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. And then Kyle closed the email up. And this is why Kyle's winning, because this is the email. Just detailed. So much stuff happening here. It then turns to the really other interesting part of this Hall of Fame thing with baseball this year is Bud Selig. Because Bud Selig oversaw all of this nonsense. Every last bit of it. And he might get in. No Bonds, no Clemens, No McGuire, no Sosa, no Palmeiro, probably no Manny Ramirez. Bud Selig's a Hall of Famer, though? I don't think so. I never liked Bud Selig. Bud Selig, to me, is guilty of embracing something bad because it was helpful to his sport. And you know what? The home run derby in 99, the All-Star game in 99 at Fenway, the Sosa versus McGuire home run chase, the chase to get Maris's 62 or 61, I think. Those things were phenomenal for the game of baseball, and I love baseball in part because of the steroid era. I grew up in it. Manny Ramirez was on my favorite pro sports team of all time with the '04 Red Sox. And David Ortiz was on that too, and I don't know what he was doing back then either. But yeah, no, Kyle's right. You can't let the guy who was in charge of the whole thing watching all this happen, because that's the important part. And Kyle put in a quote here from an ESPN article, and I'll read it to you. Quote, "In the end, it's hard to stomach Selig getting elected while Bonds, Clemens, McGuire still wait on the outside, essentially blacklisted for PED use. Everyone was responsible for the steroid era. Players, agents, managers, front office, owners, but the commissioner who oversees the game has, for the time, been vetoed. Sorry, I lost where I was there. Anyway, you get the point. Selig was overseeing this entire mess, and he might get in, and these guys aren't going to. So it's interesting. It's definitely worth keeping an eye on, and that's something that goes around all sports too. That numbers thing. It's fascinating to keep an eye on what numbers do you need to compile to get into the Hall of Fame, because the Hall of Fame to me should be a feeling, right? Off the top of my head, is Frank Gore a Hall of Famer? No. I mean, Frank Gore never did anything spectacular. The numbers bear out that I don't think he ever had more than a 1,400-yard season. He's just been very consistent. The best ability is availability. He's been phenomenal at that. But if we're going to base the Hall of Fame inductions on numbers, then guess what? Frank Gore is definitely a Hall of Famer. That's just how it works. So it depends on how you see it. And Gore, to me, I think he's going to be my example for a while. It's the perfect example for me. The numbers are there. The player is good. Not a Hall of Fame player. But if you're going to let guys in and out based on numbers, then you have to let them in. So, all right, we're going to close up shop here on the Calhoun Show in a second. Here we go.
The Calhoun Show.
All right, so there's a couple things I want to get to before we leave for the day. Number one, the NFL has got to stop doing this to London. I don't know if you guys saw this. They announced the London games for next year. Here you go. Baltimore, Jacksonville. Pass. Saints, Dolphins. Pass. Vikings, Browns. Pass. And Cardinals, Rams. Yep. Pass on that too. Terrible. I don't understand why the NFL hates London. If you're going to do this, can we do it right? Can we commit to it? Do they just not want to lose the home game for a big game? That's the only thing I can come up with. Why isn't there a Bronco-Patriot game in London? Why isn't there a Packer-Seahawk game in London? You don't have to do divisional games. There are out-of-division matchups that work, but not every London game needs to have either the Dolphins, Jags, or Browns in it. I don't understand. Those are the three worst teams to watch in the NFL. And now I guess they're going to change it, so now those aren't going to be the 9:30 Eastern start. They're going to start them at 1 p.m. local or Eastern time, 1 p.m. So it's going to be like a 7:30, 8 o'clock primetime game over there. The only reason I watch the London game is because it's on at 9:30 in the morning. If it's on at 1 o'clock, it's just going to be on the red zone cycle for me. I don't care. You know, like Siciliano or whoever the other guy is on the non-direct TV one, and which is the one I have. I just can never remember the guy's name. He's just going to be like, all right, and let's check in on the London game. Is that the Browns game? Yeah, well, go fuck yourself. No, don't do that. Like, it's just, these games suck. These games are bad. Ravens, Jaguars. No one wants to watch that. What does London have to do to get the Patriots or the Raiders over there. Ugh, I don't get it. I don't. They're forcing this London thing, but they don't want to force it the right way. And then the other thing, and we opened the show talking about that Cowboys-Giants game, and I had one other thing that I wanted to mention with this. So I tweeted this the other day, and I really believe it. The future of the NFC East is in the hands of Jerry Jones now. And what I mean by that is the future of the NFC East completely relies on Jerry Jones's ability to show restraint. Because I'll tell you two things right now. Number one, Tony Romo might give the Cowboys a better chance to win today, tomorrow, and Super Bowl Sunday. Number two, I personally don't think any of that is worth it at this point to take Dak out. Meaning, Dak has shown the ability to be a very good quarterback, and maybe the fear is that he's not ready to put it all together for a Super Bowl run, which they're poised to make this year, and I understand that. If Jerry Jones, and by the way, I'm saying Jerry Jones on purpose. I'm not saying Jason Garrett. This is Jerry Jones's decision. So if Jones decides to pull Dak in favor of Romo, maybe it works, and maybe they win a Super Bowl, and if they do, he's a genius, and that's all great and fine. You might destroy Prescott in the way on the way to that. Worse over, if you make the switch and you don't win the Super Bowl, you're in trouble. That kid's got confidence, he's got ability, and he's got belief, and he's got the the teammates believe in him. If you take him out, even if it works, you are screwing that kid up. And I said it, a little tongue-in-cheek at the end of last week. Jones came out and he had his, we hold out hope. Maybe Rome will be here next year. Maybe he's going to step in and help us win a title this year. He actually said that. And I tweeted out right after it. I said, oh my God, the Giants are going to win on Sunday. You can feel it. Jerry Jones can't help himself. He has to talk. Players all say, I don't read anything. They all read everything. They all see this stuff. Prescott saw what the owner of his team said. Yeah, maybe Romo's going to step in and help us win a title this year. If you're Prescott reading that, how are you not looking over your shoulder? And how can you play comfortably with that? It's terribly misguided by Jerry Jones. And it's reckless and not fair to the quarterback. If that's your guy, that's your guy. But 2 weeks ago, you can't stand next to that guy and say, this is my quarterback, and then 2 weeks later, pull the carpet out from under him. It's not fair. And I don't like the Cowboys. I don't want the Cowboys to do well. But I like players. I like individuals. That's the one thing for me that I've never understood about fans in sports. I grew up a Red Sox fan. I don't love the Red Sox anymore. I fell away from it when I went to college in 08. And 13, that was a fun run. That was a fun team. But I don't really care about the Red Sox that much. So I hated the Yankees growing up. But I look back at the late 90s Yankees, at the players they had on that team. I like Jeter. I like Posada, Brocious, O'Neill, Martinez, Rivera. I mean, those are good guys. I have no problem with any of them. Don't like the Yankees. And there were the other guys. There was the Clemens and the Chuck Knoblauchs of the day. But it was the logo and the Steinbrenners, right? That's what you hated. I'm a Giants fan. I don't like the Eagles. I got no problem with anybody on their team. I don't like the Cowboys. I've never liked I've always hated the Cowboys. I've always liked Romo. Seems like a nice guy. Seems like he's a great player. I like Zeke at OSU, so I root for him as an individual. I hope the Cowboys lose every game he ever plays in. But man, just the disrespect to the quarterback, to give him the job and then not be 100% behind him all the time. And Jason Garrett, give him credit. He was perfect after the game. You guys can ask, it's fine. Dak's our quarterback. Until he's not. That's the part I'm waiting to hear. And you'll hear it from the top. You'll hear it from Jerry. You won't hear it from anybody else. He'll make the call. So, coming up this weekend, we have a lot of different things to keep our eyes on. Obviously, we mentioned that Cowboy Buck game is huge. The Giant Lion game is huge. Huge. It's a huge game. Baltimore is trying to keep their hopes alive against Philadelphia. Rex Ryan. By the way, if Rex Ryan and the Bills lose to Cleveland, he'll get fired Sunday night. I'll tell you that now. Green Bay should win at Chicago. Jacksonville, Houston is somehow still relevant, but who cares? There's not a lot of great games this weekend, honestly. New England, Denver's good. Oakland, San Diego's pretty good. And then I mentioned those two other NFC games. So you guys enjoy. I'm out. I gotta go do some holiday shopping, which is gonna be the next 2 or 3 evenings for me. So I will talk to you guys either this weekend or early next week. We'll keep you posted, obviously. But don't forget, get the voicemails in for next week. Any of the ones that we have outstanding, I think we'll get them in next week. So 860-740-2119, 860-740-2119. If you're a regular listener to the show and you have not yet left a voicemail, that's your homework. Please leave us a voicemail because, well, if you got something to say. If you got nothing to say, don't do that. But, if you want to leave something funny or if your team loses on Sunday and you're pissed off and you want to call and leave a rant about it, I have the ability to bleep it out. Not that we would anyway. So, get all that stuff in, and shout out to KG for the email and all the stuff that he sent in this week. Thank you to Dan Condi for coming in last week. The reviews from last week's show were phenomenal, and everybody seemed to enjoy it. So we'll have Dan back in soon, as I always promise we will, and we will again. So you guys be good, and thank you for the support as always. And we'll talk to you down the line. See you later. It's Calvin Show.
Thank you for listening to The Calhoun Show. Join the conversation by following the show on Twitter @Calhoun Show and emailing the show at calhounshow@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe and download for free on iTunes. Want to hear yourself on the show? Leave us a voicemail by calling 860-740-2119.